Hello. So, when you want to create a company today, whether this company is in technology, it's a startup, in manufacturing, or even a restaurant, there is one thing common that between all of these types of businesses that you will need in this day and age. That is something that shouldn't really take a long time. Hopefully, it doesn't take a lot of money, or maybe take a little bit of money, which is what we call the IT infrastructure or your IT setup. And to be more specific, I'm talking about email, maybe a website, also maybe could be an online storage place for your documents, tools to use for collaboration, and also maybe things that you can use for managing tasks and so on. So those things are becoming really essential, and they've been essential for at least the last 10, 15 years. And if we think about what are the ways that you can get those set up, especially if you're not a technical founder, or even if you are a technical founder but didn't have a lot of experience with those tools before and how you get them set up, you may feel that it's a big burden to get them set up. You may hire a company to do it, or you may just take the wrong decision of using some mediocre service. I do believe, despite the fact that those are very minimal, not in the core business of what you're doing, things, but they are super important because number one, they can make you look professional. Number two, if you do them right, you can save a lot of money. Number three, they will increase the productivity tremendously, especially if you are more than one person company. So you have two, three people, or even bigger. So when we think about the things that we talked about, mainly we talked about things that we categorize under what's known these days as office tools. Basically things you can use for sending emails and editing documents. And I'm just trying to be very general. And I'll try to not to make this, I'm going to try to make this not very technical as well. So with that being said, there are two big companies today that can provide that service. And maybe a lot of you will be aware of them if you've worked in a company before. So the first one I'll talk about is Google, which what they call Google Suite. And then the other one is the Microsoft Office, or what's called Office 365. So just a little bit of warning. I have worked for Microsoft. I'm a former Microsoft employee. I do have a lot of experience with Microsoft. However, I'm going to try to not to be very biased in this video, because my desire with this video is to help all those founders or those company makers, people who are building companies, to be able to choose the right thing for them with the lowest cost and get them set up really quickly. So you can pretty much get most of what you need today in terms of email as well as document management from Microsoft and Google for almost the same price. They were a little bit different at some point, and prices have, and because of competition, they became very similar. Obviously, the incumbent in this business is Microsoft with their very famous Microsoft Office suite. And if you haven't heard of them, it's probably you've probably heard of Microsoft Excel and Word documents. So those are like the strongest things that you had, and as well as Microsoft Outlook and PowerPoint. And if we look at the pricing again, you used to be able to get most of those services for about $5 a month per user. And you'll see like most of those services today are counted or charged per user. So how many users are going to use those services? So today, in Google, at least in the time I'm recording this video, Google and Microsoft will cost you about $6 a user for getting most of the services you're going to need, which is email and document management or collaboration, document tools like Office, Excel, and so on. I personally think and prefer to use Microsoft Office, especially if you want to have this big suite of things bundled together in a secure manner to help your company grow rapidly without having to spend a lot of money. And I'll talk about why Microsoft in a lot of details, hopefully, probably in coming videos. So now let's talk about what can you get from both. From email, from the email perspective, you want to have an email setup with your company name. So you just go to, for example, Google or GoDaddy.com, or you go to Google Domains or whatever you go to, and you create this internet name, your domain name for your company, which will be used for your company name website. So your domain.com. So it could be whatever it is, like Microsoft.com, Google.com. You can pick your own domain. And then the next step, you want to have your email, especially if you're going to have customers, you want to have your email to use that domain names. It looks more professional, and it allows you to maintain a brand. So if you're doing some sort of business that has customer interaction, or you're going to interact with investors, it does make you look professional. So the next step is to acquire an email service where you can create email inboxes for you as a founder, co-founder, and your employees if you have employees. And then after that, you would start looking into, maybe should I have a website? And one of the important things for a new company in most cases is to have your company marketed. You want the company to be out there. And one of the easiest way to do that is to have a website. Even if you're building, let's say, a phone app, a lot of so Apple and Google today, if you're going to post a phone app, most likely will require you to have a privacy policy page. And the easiest way to have this page hosted is to have a website with that page where you link it in your app submission. So that being said, you want to look at having a website. And then additionally, when you start having expenses and employees, you may use you may use a Excel. Excel document or a document to keep track of your expenses. And then you may have some contracts sent to some employees or vendors or whatever. You'll use a Word edit, an editing tool. And I'm trying to be neutral as much as I can. So let's talk about this in terms of services available in the market today. So you can use Google, which will give you Gmail for email. And in that case, you can tie in your domain account with Gmail. And then you can use Google Docs for drafting a document, maybe creating documents. And then you can use Google Sheets for creating, an Excel-like experience where you have spreadsheets and so on. On the other hand, on the Microsoft side, you have the ability to, create an account in Office 365, and then with probably spending 5 to 10 minutes, you can tie in your domain. So if you're using GoDaddy, for example, it'll be able to connect to GoDaddy, pick up your domain, set it up with your email. With a few clicks, it should be done. You don't have to do anything technical other than just providing your credentials. It'll connect to your GoDaddy, connect your domain to your email. Then voila, in 10 minutes, you have your @company.com email working. And then it will provide you with Outlook, so Outlook.com. So that basically will be, your web email client, very similar to Gmail. And you can then use, Microsoft Excel online, or you can use Word documents online or PowerPoint. Those are equivalent of Docs, Sheets, and so on, which allows you to do the same things in the browser. And all of this will be the same price as Google, which is $6 a month. What's important to mention here, if we look at both Google and Microsoft from the perspective of just those Office tools, for someone who wants just a lightweight Office editing experience, they're very similar. And in my opinion, because of competition, things have become really close between each of them. Obviously, there are differences, but those are advanced differences that you will not notice as a first user. If you want to have an authoring experience where you just want to take notes, create a little document with very little styling and editing, you can just use Google Docs. And similarly, you can use Word document online. However, if you're going to do heavy authoring, let's say you're gonna write a book, or you're going to have a contract with templates, and you want to have a seamless experience of editing, creating templates, and modifying those templates, creating a header, footer, and so on, Microsoft Word will be definitely better. And and easier. Specifically, if you want to do this in an application, you don't want to do it in the browser. So if you're using a Mac machine or if you're using a PC, you want to have an application, which we call in the technical word a thick client, an application you download. You don't use the browser. The browser gets a lot of windows and then the browser crashes and things go away. You can do this easily in an actual application where you do the authoring and things get stored automatically and so on. So if I would expand on this a little bit, with Google, you get also the Google Drive, which is an online storage. With Office 365, you get OneDrive, which is the online storage. Now, if you think about the bigger picture here, where you also need to have a place to store and publish your website, you want to have the ability to manage tasks. You want to have the ability to create like workflows where you can manage some tasks or automate some tasks within the company. All of these things come with the Microsoft Office Suite standard built in with your Office 365 subscription. As a matter of fact, all of these applications we talked about, some of them are really old, really famous, like Microsoft Project, but there are lighter versions of them like Planner for managing tasks, and there is To Do for managing to-do list, and so on. There are some very powerful tools that becomes part of your portfolio of Office 365 under that $6 a month, in addition to having the ability to create online meetings with Microsoft Teams. The equivalent of it, this is being Google Meet. In Microsoft Teams, you can do recordings out of the box. There's no limitations to what you can do. And it's been a service that will establish out there with a lot of apps. It helps you having what we call instant messaging, so you can talk to your employees using, chat typing. You can also do video calls and so on. In addition to this, you have the ability to add a phone number that is associated with your, Teams account. So essentially just a phone number that you can use in your cell phone today that is also going to ring on your PC, that chatting tool, when somebody calls you. As a matter of fact, you can even set up an IVR, which is essentially, think of it as a call center. You can create a message that greets people when they call your call center, give them options, and then it would switch them to specific support queues, essentially agents who can take the calls and do support. All of this can be done from Office 365 without having to talk to other vendors, without having to introduce other tools outside Microsoft Office, under the same subscription. Obviously, I did talk about some additional things that will require some additional costs on top of the $6 a month. All of those will be connected in the Office Suite with a single identity, which is called Microsoft Active Directory. This is great because it makes onboarding a new employee easy. You have the ability, because all of them are controlled with one directory, with one system, with one identity system, you have the ability to say, okay, John has joined, I'm going to give him access to all of these tools together. In the same time, you have the ability to make the offboarding easy because, a new startup, a new company, you have a lot of people coming and going. So that's not really uncommon to have movement in your employees, right? So you don't have the ability to make onboarding easy, and you don't want to think or spend time on it, and then offboarding easy because you're not going to have an HR guy. The odds are you are going to be the HR person. So you want to get these things done really quickly. So with Microsoft Office, you have the ability to connect all of these tools I talked about to the same identity, where you can say, David has left the company. Now David is off there. So I disable his access. Now automatically everything else is going to be locked. On top of this, you can also monitor how David is using his identity. You can require him to have a multi-factor authentication, meaning he has to use a verification code in his phone, which makes it really hard to hack his account, in addition to all the monitoring tools you get with Microsoft Office. All of this is primary part of your regular suite with Office. You may find some similarities there in Google, but you're not going to find all of these things. And if you want to have maybe a website hosted, so Microsoft Azure comes integrated with Office 365, which can allow you to host your website for free, or I would say closely to be really free, because I want to be accurate. Depends on how much load you're going to have on the server. You may have to have additional non-free stuff, but you can create a website that's free. You can even create a WordPress blog for free. And hopefully I'll have time to show all of this. So all of that can be done for about $6 a month, and it can be set up in an astounding 10 to 15 minutes. Really, really fast. It really doesn't take time. So that's why I think, and I hope this is not an ad paid by Microsoft at all. Maybe one time they should pay me. But essentially, I'm trying to help founders out there. You should be able to go to sign up. You should be able to sign up today on Office 365. Pick that tier, which is for $6 a month, and it will give you all these options. Get them set up pretty quickly. I can help you set them up. And just to be clear, I'm not trying to make money out of consultation. I'm just trying to help people. Reach out to me. If I have time, I'll help you. Because those things shouldn't take money, shouldn't cost you money, and shouldn't take time. So with that setup, you'll have the ability to also integrate external tools. If you are a restaurant, or if you are a law office and you have different tools that outside the Microsoft realm, which is really common, you'll see that Microsoft Azure or Microsoft Active Directory has integration with existing applications out there, thousands of them, that will allow you to bring those applications under the umbrella of the Microsoft identity, which is Azure Active Directory, which means you can have them all protected with the same username and password that you provide to users or employees, and they can be all in the same directory, monitored and secured. You can offload and onboard people easily. Have you ever heard about ransomware attacks? Basically having someone random in a foreign country or maybe within that goes and access your computer unlawfully and encrypts all your documents and then ask you for a ransom to unlock those or unencrypt those documents. It's horrific. It happened to me. And luckily, I was using Office 365. I haven't done anything extra, but all of my documents were automatically already backed up. So all I had to do, just go, tell that hacker, just go away. I'm not going to pay you $1. And I just restored all the documents from the backup, which made everything go back to normal. And that was really, it took me almost 10, 20 minutes to restore. So it really protects you from that perspective as well. There are so many things you can talk about, but the summary of this video is the best thing to do for having a great collaboration, make things work faster with the employees without having to spend a lot of time on setup or spending a lot of money on setup, is to use Microsoft Office 365. There are a little bit of tricks that you can do where you can do everything for free, at least for a while. You can go create a trial account, which gives you 30 days. You can then extend those 30 days for another 30 days, so you can have them for almost 60 days without paying a dime. And you can try all of those services. And then you can create a partnership with Microsoft and pay a little bit of a fee, which then gives you a lot more licenses that you need, more than what you need in Office, but also in Windows. And if you're a developer or you have developers, it gives you Microsoft Visual Studio licenses and so on. So a few other things in addition to $100 a month for using in Azure, which allows you to host your website for free. So there's so many things that can be done. And if you do them in a smart way, they'll be cheap and they will enable your company for success. Hopefully that was not really too fast, but I try to cover this topic at least on a high level. And I'm hoping I haven't made it really technical. But if you have questions, please reach out to me in the comments, and I will connect with you on private messaging. We can talk about some of those things. I'm planning to do a meetup also to talk about this with more people and show you how we can take this step forward and maybe build services in the cloud that will help you with the same set of suite or the same suite of services that we talked about today. Thank you.